My name's Jake, and I work the night shift at Walmart. Been doing it for 2 years now, and I thought I'd seen everything. What happened last Tuesday changed everything I thought I knew about my job. It started when I was restocking the pharmacy section around 2 a.m. I noticed the employee break room light was on, which was weird because only 3 of us were working that night. Me, Mark, and Lisa. Mark was at the front doing inventory, and Lisa was in grocery. I walked over to turn off the light and save electricity. That's when I heard voices coming from inside. 2 men talking in low whispers. I couldn't make out the words, but something about their tone made my skin crawl. I pressed my ear to the door. One voice was saying something about the shipment and making sure no one sees. The other guy kept saying, "Hurry up," and "We don't have much time." My heart started pounding. We don't get shipments at 2 a.m. Ever. I grabbed my phone and started recording, then slowly opened the door a crack. 2 men in dark clothes were sitting at our break room table, counting stacks of cash. Lots of cash. More money than I'd ever seen in one place. There were also small plastic bags filled with white powder scattered across the table. One of them looked up and saw me. Our eyes met for maybe 2 seconds. He had this scar running down his left cheek and cold, dead eyes that made me freeze up completely. "Hey!" he shouted, jumping up so fast his chair fell over. I slammed the door and ran. Behind me, I could hear them scrambling, chairs scraping, someone cursing loudly. My legs felt like jelly, but somehow I made it to the front of the store where Mark was working. "Mark!" I gasped. "There's people in the break room. Call 911. Mark looked at me like I was crazy. "What people?" "It's just us tonight." "I saw them. 2 guys with money and drugs." Mark grabbed his keys and we both ran back to the break room. He unlocked the door and flipped on the light. The room was completely empty. Clean table, chairs pushed in neatly, nothing out of place. "Jake, you feeling okay? You look really pale." I was shaking. "They were here. I saw them. I even recorded it." I pulled out my phone and played the recording. You could hear my breathing and footsteps, but no voices. Nothing. Just silence. Mark made me sit down and get some water. He said maybe I was working too many double shifts, that my mind was playing tricks on me. But I knew what I saw. The next morning when my shift ended, I was walking to my car when I saw something that made my blood run cold. There was a black SUV parked behind the building near the loading dock. The same SUV I'd seen there a few times over the past month, always around 2 a.m. But this time, I saw who got out. It was Mark, my supervisor Mark, and he was talking to the man with the scar. That's when it all clicked. Mark had keys to every room in the store. Mark made the schedules. Mark knew exactly when each of us would be where. And Mark was the one who told me the break room was empty, who made me think I was going crazy. I called in sick for the next 3 nights and contacted the police anonymously. Turns out our Walmart was being used as a drug distribution center. Mark had been letting dealers use our break room during night shifts for months, taking a cut of their profits. They arrested Mark and 2 other guys last week. The police said if I hadn't seen what I did, they might never have caught them. I got promoted to night supervisor. Funny how things work out. My name's Mike, and I've been working nights at Walmart for about 8 months. Usually it's pretty quiet, just me and 2 other guys keeping the place running until morning. But 3 weeks ago, I had an experience that still makes me check over my shoulder every night. It was around 1:30 a.m. when this man walked in. He was maybe in his 50s, average height, wearing a long, dark jacket. What caught my attention was how he moved. Real slow and careful, like he was trying not to make any noise. I was working the customer service desk, so I had a clear view of the whole front of the store. He didn't grab a cart or basket, just walked straight toward the back like he knew exactly where he was going. About an hour later, I realized he was still in the store. I could see him moving around in the grocery aisles, but he wasn't shopping. Just walking up and down, stopping to look at things but never putting anything in a cart. Then I noticed something weird. Every time another customer came in, he would disappear, like he was hiding from them. When they left, he'd come back out and continue his strange wandering. Around 3 a.m., my co-worker Danny came up to the front. "Hey Mike, you see that guy in the dark jacket? He's been following me around the store for the past 20 minutes. My stomach dropped. "Following you how?" "Every aisle I go to stock, he shows up a few minutes later. Just stands there watching me work. When I move to the next aisle, he follows. It's creeping me out." I told Danny to stay at the front with me, and we both watched the security monitors. There he was, standing perfectly still in aisle 8, staring directly at the camera, like he knew we were watching him. I decided to approach him. I walked over to aisle 8, but when I got there, he was gone. I found him in aisle 12, standing with his back to me. "Excuse me, sir? Can I help you find anything?" He didn't turn around. Didn't move at all. I walked closer and repeated myself. Still nothing. Then I saw what he was staring at. It was our employee photos on the wall, the ones they put up showing who works each shift. He was staring directly at my photo. He finally turned around, and I got a good look at his face for the first time. He had these really intense eyes, and this strange smile that didn't look right. "I'm just looking," he said in this flat, emotionless voice. "Just looking at the people who work here." I backed away and radioed for my supervisor, but by the time he got there, the guy was gone. We checked every aisle, the bathrooms, even the parking lot. It was like he just vanished. The next night, he came back. Same time, same behavior. This time he followed our other co-worker Tom around, always staying just far enough away that he couldn't confront him directly. This went on for 5 nights straight. We started calling him the stalker guy and would warn each other when he showed up. On the 6th night, I was working alone at the front when a police officer came in. He showed me a photo and asked if I'd seen this man. It was him, our stalker. Turns out his name was Robert Chen, and he'd been released from a psychiatric facility 2 weeks earlier. He had a history of obsessing over retail workers, following them around stores, and eventually trying to follow them home. The officer said he'd been doing this at 3 different stores across town before coming to ours. "Has he tried to get any personal information about employees?" he asked. That's when it hit me. The employee photos, our work schedules posted on the wall, our name tags. He'd been collecting information about all of us. They found him sitting in his car in our parking lot that same night, with a notebook full of details about me, Danny, and Tom. Our full names, what shifts we worked, descriptions of our cars, even sketches of our faces. He was arrested for stalking. The officer said if we hadn't called it in, he probably would have started showing up at our homes next. My name's David, and I work the overnight shift at Walmart. What I'm about to tell you happened 2 months ago, and it's the reason I almost quit my job. It was a Tuesday night, and I was working with my buddy Marcus. We'd been partners on the night shift for over a year, and we had our routine down perfectly. Around midnight, Marcus said he was going to the loading dock to bring in some pallets. Normal stuff. He grabbed his radio and headed to the back of the store. That was the last time I saw him. An hour passed, and I hadn't heard from Marcus on the radio. I called him several times, nothing but static. I figured maybe he was having trouble with the delivery truck or something, so I kept working. By 2 a.m., I was getting worried. I walked to the loading dock to check on him. The big metal door was open, which was weird because we always keep it locked. Marcus's radio was sitting on the ground near the entrance, but no sign of him anywhere. I called out his name. No answer. Just this cold wind blowing through the empty dock. I radioed our supervisor, Tom, who was working in a different section. "Hey Tom, you seen Marcus?" "Can't find him anywhere." Tom came over to help me look. We searched the whole store, every aisle, the break room, the bathrooms, even the manager's offices. Nothing. It was like Marcus had just disappeared. Maybe he got sick and went home, Tom suggested. But Marcus's car was still in the parking lot. His keys and wallet were in his locker. We called the police around 4 a.m. They came and took a report, but said since Marcus was an adult, they couldn't do much for 24 hours. They suggested maybe he had a family emergency and caught a ride with someone. But I knew Marcus. He would never just leave without saying something, and he definitely wouldn't leave his car and wallet behind. The next night, I was working alone because they hadn't found a replacement for Marcus yet. I kept thinking about what happened, going over every detail in my head. That's when I noticed something strange. In the loading dock area, there were some scratches on the concrete floor that I hadn't seen before, like something heavy had been dragged across it. I followed the scratches with my flashlight. They led from the loading dock, through the back storage area, and ended at a big industrial freezer that we used for overflow inventory. The freezer was humming loudly, which was normal, but there was a new padlock on it that I'd never seen before, a heavy-duty lock that wasn't part of our usual equipment. I tried to open it, but obviously couldn't without the combination. Something about that lock made my skin crawl. Why would someone put a new lock on an inventory freezer? I called Tom over and showed him the scratches and the lock. He looked just as confused as I was. "I didn't authorize any new locks," he said. "And look at these scratches. Something was definitely dragged over here." We called the police again and explained what we found. This time they took it seriously. They brought bolt cutters and opened the freezer. Marcus was inside. He'd been killed with a blow to the head and stuffed into the freezer to hide the body. The investigation revealed that our night security guard, a guy named James who worked the shift before ours, had been stealing electronics and selling them online. Marcus must have caught him loading stolen merchandise at the loading dock. James had hit Marcus with a crowbar to keep him quiet, then panicked when he realized he'd killed him. He put the body in the freezer and planned to move it later when he could figure out how to dispose of it properly. They found all the evidence on James's phone, messages with buyers, photos of stolen items, even a text to his girlfriend saying he had to take care of a problem at work. James got life in prison for murder. I still can't walk past that freezer without thinking about Marcus. My name is Emily Turner, and I've been working the night shift at the Walmart in Phoenix, Arizona, for about 3 years now. The night shift is usually quiet, with only a few customers and a skeleton crew to keep the store running. One of my co-workers, Sarah Jennings, was a bit of a loner. She was 28, soft-spoken, and always kept to herself. We weren't close, but we would sometimes exchange a few words during our breaks. One night, something happened that none of us can forget. It was a Tuesday, just past midnight, and the store was nearly empty. Sarah was scheduled to work, but no one had seen her for a while. Her shift started as usual. She clocked in, dropped her bag in the break room, and headed to the stock room to organize the new shipment. I remember thinking it was strange that she hadn't come back out in a while. Hours passed, and still, there was no sign of her. Around 3 a.m., our manager, Mike, started getting concerned. He called her name over the intercom, but there was no response. I felt a chill run down my spine, a bad feeling settling in the pit of my stomach. A few of us began searching the store, checking the aisles, the bathrooms, the parking lot, everywhere. But there was no trace of Sarah. We eventually checked her locker, hoping to find some clue, but it was open, her belongings still inside. Her purse, phone, everything was there, like she had just stepped away for a moment. But she was nowhere to be found. Mike decided to review the security footage to see if we had missed something. We all crowded around the small monitor in the office, our eyes glued to the screen. The footage showed Sarah walking into the stockroom around 11:30 p.m. She looked normal, just going about her work. But then, she disappeared from the frame, heading towards the back of the storage area. We watched and waited, expecting to see her return, but she never did. Hours of footage went by, and there was no sign of Sarah walking out. It was like she had vanished into thin air. The police were called, and they conducted a full investigation. They combed through the store, interviewed all of us, but nothing turned up. Sarah was gone, without a trace, and the case went cold. Months passed, and life at the store slowly returned to normal, though Sarah's disappearance still hung over us like a dark cloud. Then, one day, a terrible smell started coming from the back of the store, near the stockroom. It was faint at first, but it grew stronger, until we couldn't ignore it anymore. Mike called maintenance to check it out. When they opened up a section of the wall near the storage area, the smell hit us like a punch to the gut. Inside the wall, hidden behind layers of drywall and insulation, was Sarah's body. Her face was twisted in a silent scream, her eyes wide open in terror. The sight was burned into my mind, a nightmare I can't shake. The police ruled it a homicide, but they never found out who did it, or how her body ended up there. We were all questioned again, but no one had any answers. The store tried to move on, but the memory of Sarah, trapped and alone in that wall, haunts me. Every time I walk by the stockroom, I can still feel her presence, like she's still there, waiting for someone to find her, to bring her justice. But deep down, I know we never will. My name is David Morales, and I'm 27 years old. I've been working the night shift at a 24-hour Walmart in Houston for the past 2 years. It's not the most exciting job, but it pays the bills, and the late hours usually mean fewer customers and a quieter environment. But one night, something happened that I can't forget, something that still haunts me. It was a slow night, like most, and I was restocking shelves near the frozen food aisle. I noticed a man standing there, dressed in a hooded jacket. At first, I didn't think much of it. People often wander around late at night. But there was something off about this guy. He wasn't shopping or looking at any of the products. He was just staring at me. I tried to brush it off and focused on my work, but every time I glanced up, the man seemed to be closer. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I couldn't understand how he was moving so quickly and silently. My curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to walk over and ask if he needed help. But as soon as I took a few steps towards him, he was gone, vanished into thin air. I searched the aisles, but there was no sign of him. It was like he had never been there at all. I started feeling uneasy, but I tried to shake it off. After all, I was probably just tired, imagining things that weren't really there. Later, during my break, I went to the employee lounge to relax. I was alone, sipping my coffee, when I heard a whisper, low and chilling. "You're next." My heart skipped a beat. I spun around, and there he was, the same hooded man, standing just inches away from me, his face hidden in the shadows. I stumbled back, my coffee cup crashing to the floor. But in the blink of an eye, he was gone again. I ran out of the lounge, breathless and shaken. I went straight to the security office and asked them to check the footage. We watched the video together, and my stomach dropped. The cameras showed me sitting in the lounge, but there was no one else there. No man in a hooded jacket, no one whispering behind me. Just me, alone and terrified. I couldn't make sense of it. How could I have imagined something so real? But the fear gnawed at me, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. A week later, one of my coworkers, Tony, was found dead in the parking lot. His throat had been slashed, and there was blood everywhere. The police called it a robbery gone wrong, but I knew better. I knew it was the man in the hooded jacket, the same man who had been stalking me that night, the same man who had whispered those terrifying words in my ear. I started watching my back, expecting him to show up again, but he didn't. At least, not that I could see. But I know he's still out there, somewhere, watching, waiting for the right moment. Every night at work, I feel his presence, lurking in the shadows, just out of sight. And I know it's only a matter of time before he comes for me, just like he came for Tony. I don't know when or how, but I know one thing for sure. I'm next. My name is Lucy Rivera, and I'm 27 years old. I've been working as a cashier at the Walmart in Orlando, Florida for almost 5 years now. In that time, I've seen all kinds of people come through my line. Some friendly, some rude, some just plain weird. But nothing prepared me for the man I encountered last Tuesday. It was just after lunch, and the store was busy as usual. I was scanning items on autopilot when a man stepped into my line with a basket. He was tall, with hollow eyes and trembling hands. There was something off about him, something that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. He didn't have much in his basket, just duct tape, plastic sheeting, and a bunch of cleaning supplies. But the combination of those items and the way he was acting sent a chill down my spine. I tried to make small talk, asking if he was working on a home project, but he just stared at me, his eyes empty. His hands shook as he handed me the money, and I remember noticing how his fingers were stained with what looked like dried paint, or maybe something else. I forced a smile, handed him his change, and watched as he walked out of the store. The moment he left, I felt this overwhelming sense of dread. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was seriously wrong. I went to my manager, Sam, and told him about the guy. I described the weird items he bought and how he acted, but Sam just laughed it off, saying that people buy weird stuff all the time, especially at Walmart. He told me not to worry about it and sent me back to my register. 2 days later, I was on my lunch break, scrolling through the news on my phone when I saw the headline, "Woman's body found in nearby woods, bound with duct tape and wrapped in plastic." My heart dropped. The details in the article matched the items that man had bought. The plastic sheeting, the duct tape, even the cleaning supplies. The police were asking for any information, but I already knew who it was. I told myself it was just a coincidence, but deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had been part of something horrible. I kept seeing his face, those hollow eyes, and wondering if there was something I could have done. Should I have insisted that Sam call the police? Should I have followed the man out of the store? That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that man's face. I imagined him in the woods, wrapping that poor woman in the very items he bought from my line. I felt sick to my stomach, like I had unknowingly helped a monster. I still work at Walmart, but every time someone buys something unusual, I get that same cold chill. I wonder if there's another Lucy out there, ringing up items that could be part of a twisted plan. And I wonder if she'll be able to live with the guilt, knowing she was too scared to act when it mattered most.